Is Israel winning this war against Hamas in Gaza? I think we really need to deal with that with my expert guest, Lieutenant Colonel in the reserves, Jonathan Conricus. He had been the chief spokesman on the international spokesman unit for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. He is a former combatant commander for the Israeli forces, Israeli Defense Forces, and he's now he's been released from his reserve duty, though he's a patriot, and he's continuing to do these interviews because he cares about this. He's doing it in a different capacity as a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and I love that organization. That's a great place to land. So, all right. So we have a potential much wider and tougher war coming with Hezbollah. They've got 150,000 missiles. This could be a nightmare, maybe the biggest war that Israel has ever faced. But we just don't know quite how that's going to play out yet. So let's stay focused on, or shift back to Gaza. You've spent time inside Gaza with the IDF. Are we winning there or not? Because U.S. intelligence estimates, according to a big Wall Street Journal story this week, saying, yeah, not so much.
What I'm reading in between the lines is that simply work hasn't been completed yet. Yes, the IDF is going in the right direction. I think that we are at a slower pace than what we would have wanted to be. But at the end of the day, it's very clear who's winning. Israel is winning. Hamas terrorists are dying. Their infrastructure is being dismantled as we speak. Their governance is shattered. And their ability to control and to rearm and to fight is very limited. They're not out yet. Until Israel dismantles the smuggling tunnels coming in from Rafah, the Egyptian border, from the Sinai Peninsula into Gaza. These are the tunnels where all of the weapons currently killing Israelis were used to kill Israelis on the 7th of October, before that, and currently. This is where all
it's all stored. Plus there are 130 or so, 136 hostages probably in those tunnels, right?
Yes. In the Rafah smuggling tunnels, I don't think that they're being held. I don't know. They may be.
I mean, tunnels generally under the south of
exactly.
Gaza.
And the IDF exposed just 2 days ago one tunnel complex where the Israelis believe that hostages were held for many, many days. More than 20 or so hostages were most likely held in a very cramped and horrible conditions.
And there was actual evidence of them being there. There were children's drawings and
and DNA was also found there. So it's clear where they were hiding them. But at the end of the day, what I read from that story, which I think is a good story, is, well, the train's moving in the right direction, but the job isn't done yet.
Israeli assessments, at least according to the article, are that 1,000 Hamas terrorists were killed on the day of the 7th
of October.
That about 9,000 have been killed since. That would be about 10,000. And that about 14,000 or so Hamas terrorists have been wounded. Half of those seriously enough to keep them off. So that would be about another 8. So now you're talking about 18,000 roughly terrorists either dead or out of commission. According to the 35,000 overall estimate of Hamas fighters, that would be about 50%, but the U.S. is saying 20 to 30%.
Yeah. Without any disrespect, I don't know how good U.S. intel is on Gaza. I think that Israeli intel, with its limitations, is at a higher resolution because it's our backyard. The bottom line is, the only thing that is keeping Hamas alive is the fact that there are civilians there that Hamas is using as their human shields, and makes it more cumbersome and difficult for the IDF to operate there. And it's like trying to run through water. You'll get there eventually, and it's with a lot of effort, but at the end of the day, there's lots of restricting factors that the IDF, being a military that is morally obligated to the laws of armed conflict, isn't violating. Not firing wildly at civilians.
Right. All right, last question I have to ask you is, very interesting interview this past week by one of the war cabinet ministers, or at least security cabinet ministers, Gadi Eisenkot. Eisenkot has paid a very dear personal price, a son, I believe a nephew, both killed in combat. He himself is a former chief of staff of the IDF, right? So, but he said he said two things I just want you to give a quick comment on. Well, first, that we need to take maybe it may take several months, but have an actual pause to get all the rest of the hostages back. And if that takes a few months worth of giving essentially a ceasefire, he would support that. That was shocking, but he's reflecting a tension in the society right now between is our main objective defeating Hamas immediately or getting all these hostages back? And if those two goals are incompatible, what do we prioritize? He's prioritizing the hostages, understandably. And the other thing he said is we can't win. It felt that way. He basically said, ultimately, you can't eradicate Hamas. You can degrade them, but you can't. That was a bit of a shock. And can you give a comment on those two
I have
points?
tremendous respect for him as a commander.
As do I. Yeah.
And I wouldn't second guess him. I would say that I believe that we can and that we will and that we must defeat Hamas. I believe that Hamas can be dismantled militarily and taken out of commission as a fighting organization. I don't think that we can kill each and every Hamas commander and terrorist. We probably won't be able to, but I definitely believe that we can do enough in order to dismantle the organization and in order to break their fighting spirit and force them to do what all terrorist cowards do when the going gets really tough. Put down their weapons, stash it somewhere, go out in civilian clothes, and embed themselves in the civilian society again. It's a matter of time, and it's a matter of will and perseverance. And I think that Israel has the capacity to do so, the will, the weapons, and the international support.
And do you have in only a few seconds we have left, do you have a personal, now that you're out of the IDF, do you have a personal instinct or sense of, should we take a longer pause in order to get these hostages
back? I think
back?
that Hamas won't do it, because I think that Hamas, at the end of the day, they know that when they will give up the hostages, it'll be game over for them. Therefore, I fail to see the real incentive for them to do so.
Not easy to hear, because we want those hostages back. We're asking you to keep praying for that, all the Christians in the United States and around the world. Very interesting interview with my friend and a true Israeli patriot, Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserves, Jonathan Conricus. I'm very, very grateful to him. I want you to share the link to this show, the entire show, with your friends and family on social media. You can find it at rosenbergreport.tv and as well as on YouTube. And keep praying.